Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bolo, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gaura Pimanandi Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Privrajagacharya Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Sirabai Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandi Biti Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jainitai Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurambiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, it becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttama-shloka charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Vishreyasaya lokasya Dhamyam swasyayanam mahal. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantara, as the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. The microphone lila has to take place. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Galadhara, Sri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukham karoti vasalam pangom langayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our morning Bhagavatam here in Sri Mayapur, and we are going directly to our text, which is from the second canto, chapter 10, entitled, very nice title, Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. I believe it's 18, right? 18, okay. Mukhatas, tālu, nirbhinnaṁ, jihvā, tatropajāyate, tato, nānā-raso, jajñe, jihvayā, yo, dhigamyate, mukhatas tālu nirbhinnaṁ, jihvā tatropajāyate, tato nānā-raso jajñe, jihvayā dhigamyate mukhatas tālu nirbhinnaṁ jihvā tatropajāyate tato nānā-raso jajñe jihvayā dhigamyate jihvayā dhigamyate mukhatas tālu nirbhinnaṁ jihvā tatropajāyate tato nānā-raso jajñe jihvayā dhigamyate Ladies. Mukhataḥ, from the mouth. Tālu, the palate. Nirbhinnam, being generated. Jihvā, the tongue. Tatra, thereupon. Upajāyate, becomes manifested. Tataḥ, thereupon. Nānā-rasaḥ, various tastes. Jajñe, became manifested. Jihvayā, by the tongue. Yah, which. Adhigamyate, become relished. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. From the mouth of the palate became manifested. From the mouth, the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this, all the different tastes came into existence so that the tongue can relish them. Kindly repeat after me. From the mouth, the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this, all the different tastes came into existence so that the tongue can relish them. Purport. This gradual process of evolution suggests the explanation of the controlling deities, adhidaiva, because Varuna is a controlling deity for all relishable juices. Therefore, the mouth becomes the resting place for the tongue, which tastes all the different juices, of which the controlling deity is Varuna. This suggests, therefore, that Varuna was also generated along with the development of the tongue. The tongue and the palate, being instrumental, are adhibhutam, or forms of matter. But the functioning deity, who is a living entity, is adhidaiva, whereas the person undergoing the function is adhyatma. Thus, the three categories are also explained as to their birth after the opening of the mouth of the virāṭ-puruṣa. The four principles mentioned in this verse serve to explain the three main principles, namely the adhyatma, adhidaiva, and adhibhutam, as explained before. Translation again. From the mouth of the palate the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this, all the different tastes came into existence so that the tongue can relish them. I want to take us back a few verses ahead, actually at the beginning of this chapter. As mentioned a little earlier, the title of the chapter is Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. And there's a whole explanation being given as to how this creation, material creation, takes place. It is described how there's two levels of creation, sarga, called sarga, and visarga. First creation and secondary creation. First creation is actually done by the expansion of the Lord, Mahavishnu. The Vishnus are Purusha incarnations of the Lord, and specifically three levels of Mahavishnu, as we read in the Bhagavatam. They are instrumental in the first creation, the creation of the material universes. And then there's a second level of creation, which is performed by Lord Brahma. In the original creation, it makes reference to 16 different items, beginning with earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And related to earth, water, fire, air, and ether are the different bodily organs that are directly connected. for example, earth. Just like people who want to assess the quality of earth. Actually, very important in the Vedic culture. In the Vedic culture, to know what is good soil and what is not good soil. One of the tests, there are different tests actually. One of the tests is to smell the soil. If the soil smells good, then that is one. There are other indications as well. So, in other words, earth is connected with smell. And of course, smell is possible only if we have a nose. So like this, in this chapter, there are specifics in terms of the different bodily parts that are related to earth, water, fire, air, and ether. It means that actually, what is also mentioned, of course, in this verse is that for each of the bodily functions, there is a deity. There are different deities that are controlling all of our different parts of the body, which basically means that this material creation is a very involved process. It's a very involved process that actually is very, very much organized in great detail, in such detail that is beyond most of our understanding, isn't it? Which means that actually when modern scientists present their view of creation, and they of course leave out the higher principle behind creation. They leave out the aspect of higher beings who are controlling the different elements, and of course they leave out especially the original living entity, the original being, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Which means that actually, as the title of this chapter is indicating, that if we really want to understand about creation, how it is actually done, what are the personalities involved actually in creating, and ultimately what is the purpose of creation as well, then we must come to this explanation, or we must at least hear this explanation from the Bhagavatam. And that is why Srila Prabhupada was very anxious, very much desirous that we as devotees present this material creation in a very scientific way to the scientific community. We also know that the different the structures of the universe is also very much detailed and also, practically speaking, beyond our immediate understanding or comprehension. So if things of a material nature, how this material universe is generated, how the cosmology is organized, that's one of the reasons, main reason actually, that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to have Temple of Vedic Planetarium here in Sridham Mayapur, to actually show, to actually replicate or duplicate what is actually explained in the Bhagavatam, then people, including our own selves as devotees, we will begin to have some understanding not only of the creation and how very involved it is, but also of who is behind this creation. It means that there is a creator. Creation means there is a creator. So in this way, one of the purposes of the Krishna consciousness movement is to actually not only present, very important point actually made in the beginning, I'll just share it here actually. This is in the second verse of this chapter, where Shukadeva Goswami explains that to isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum. Summum bonum means ultimately Krishna, the spiritual world. To isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanation given by the great sages. In other words, there are two realities, so to speak. One is the spiritual realm, which we here our acharyas described as the spiritual swadharma. Spiritual swadharma is one level of reality which is dealing especially with the spiritual world and anything that is actually spiritual, including the living entities. Then there is the level of material swadharma, which is to a large extent being described here. Material swadharma includes the material manifestation and how it is generated, how it is created. And although it is difficult for probably the vast majority of us as devotees to understand these descriptions in detail, we should facilitate. Actually, we need to have individuals who are given the time. That's actually the role and responsibility primarily of brahmanas, those who are more, we could say, inclined intellectually to actually give the necessary time to read, to study, to discuss, and of course, by Krishna's mercy, to realize the content that is being presented in the Bhagavatam. In other words, the Bhagavatam is giving us in great detail, both are very deep and profound subject matters. On the one hand, the nature of the spiritual world, which includes all types of subject matters related to what is called the principle of tattva, on the one side, and then also the Bhagavatam is giving us, as we are getting a little glimpse here, all kinds of information in terms of how this material universe is created, how this body and how the different sense organs are functioning, and how everything is actually planned. Everything is planned, and everything is controlled by different higher living entities. The demigods are in charge of not only that's part of the universal affairs of the world, we are part, we are as living entities having this material body. So it means that actually, because sometimes people, as a matter of fact, I think in the beginning of this chapter, the question is being asked, is it not sufficient simply to study spiritual subject matters? Why do we need to bother studying material subjects? And of course the answer is given that there's a few explanations. One is that most of us are not ready, are not qualified to actually just immerse ourselves immediately in spiritual subject matters. And in many ways that's why these topics that deal with the summum bonum, that deal with Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, are found in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. And we are advised by our acharyas that we need to systematically, isn't it, read and study and discuss the first 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam. So that is one reason why we need to have some understanding, and we should study and give importance to Krishna's creation. Another reason actually is that by knowing how detailed and how involved is the creation, we will begin to gain rather some appreciation, isn't it? The more we understand how very wonderful is Krishna's creation. Krishna's creation is actually very attractive, very wonderful. I mean, the scientists continue to be amazed to discover so many different things of the material world. And of course, knowing this as devotees, that will increase our appreciation. We could say also our gratitude for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this will help us to also learn how to properly utilize Krishna's energy, Krishna's resources. Just like we know today, at least we should know, we should know today that because of misuse of Krishna's resources, the whole world is in a very critical condition, isn't it? And we as devotees who are supposed to understand and promote what is called Sanatana Dharma, it is also our duty and our responsibility to make sure that those who are in leadership positions in the world are properly utilizing this material energy, isn't it? In other words, it's also our responsibility as devotees. And devotees are not only meant to be transcendentalists, just like in the Vedic culture, a king is simultaneously a qualified, let's say materially speaking, a qualified Raja, king, but he's also a qualified Rishi. That's why he's called Rajarshi, Raja Rishi. So we have this dual responsibility actually as devotees and as a society as well. As a worldwide society, we are meant to actually, that is probably the foremost, most important responsibility of our Krishna consciousness movement actually is to give proper direction, especially to leaders within society. But unless we ourselves are knowledgeable, familiar with, for example, in one sense it's a simple thing, agriculture. But actually, agriculture is not simple. Cow care is also not simple. They are sciences within themselves, and we as individuals and as a society have a specific role and duty to actually play in not only in guiding. How can we guide unless we have individuals who are knowledgeable, isn't it, of these sciences? So the whole Vedic culture, the whole Vedic way of life is based on some very specific and very scientific sciences that Prabhupada actually wanted us to introduce systematically in what he told us was meant to be varnashram colleges. It happens to be an area that I've been giving quite a bit of attention in the last so many years. And varnashram colleges are quite rare and far in between, unfortunately, within our society. But varnashram colleges are meant to be those places where especially the traditional Vedic sciences, that's a whole subject matter in itself, are systematically introduced so that we have individuals who are very knowledgeable and who can actually, just like if we were to ask, I don't know, let's say any one of you here, and I don't know actually who's here, if we were to ask you, can you give proper advice to farmers as to how they should do farming? Because traditionally farmers would ask the local brahmana when to plant the crop, when to have their cows become pregnant, and whenever they would ask the local brahmana that, okay, I need a calf, the brahmana would ask, do you want a male calf or a female calf? Because brahmanas knew how to get a female calf as opposed to a male calf. One may think, well, this is material knowledge. Well, we are in the material world, and material knowledge that is utilized in Krishna service is no longer material knowledge, you see. So it means that actually all of us, and as a society, we need to be familiar not only with the spiritual dimension of what we call dharma, and dharma, we should know, is not restricted or limited only to things of a spiritual nature. Dharma is very much related to things of a material nature, and of course this chapter is especially dealing with this aspect as well. I read the note on the board here, which says that I need to wind up, including questions and answers, before 9 o'clock. So I will be a good student and follow the good instructions and leave. We have, we have about 7 or 8 minutes for any possible comments or questions on our verse. I see we have a mic, possibly, yes. Okay, the first hand was way back there. Yeah, since the hand was first up. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The first time I heard you give a class was in Los Angeles. That's where I'm from.
The first time what?
I heard you give a class was in Los Angeles, is where I'm from.
Okay.
And you talked about Varnashram College, and I came into my mind, and I know one of your godbrothers, Nirbhinnaṁ, he wanted to start this, but it never took flight. So what do we do to make that happen in ISKCON temples?
Thank you for the question. We have to keep, like anything else, we have to keep pushing and promoting. In the last, you may not know, in the last couple of years actually, a group of devotees, actually from year 2000, we started Varnashram College online, which is a step in the right direction, of course. It's still ongoing, but 2 years ago, a group of devotees started Varnashram, or established Varnashram College Foundation. And that's the primary reason I'm in Mayapur. It's kind of on the outskirts of Mayapur because it's on the, just on the outside of, close to Rasamrita Kunj. We need to have more devotees who are conscious and aware of the absolute necessity to follow instructions given by our founder Acharya, especially in the matter of Varnashrama Dharma. It's a huge, monumental, it's like extremely vast subject matter, and one of the reasons Srila Prabhupada wanted us to have not only one, but a series, actually wherever we have, Prabhupada said, wherever we have temples, we should have a Varnashram college, was to give our devotees an opportunity to begin understanding why it is so important, and to help us understand also how we need to deal not only with the spiritual aspect, as I mentioned before, of dharma, but also the material. So it's a question of somehow, I think it's gradually happening, but it's been very slow. And ultimately, whatever is the desire of the acharyas will take place. I mean, it's like, you know, Prabhupada wanted that we have the Temple of Vedic Planetarium 50 years ago. It's still not open. I mean, it's there, but we've come a long way. So some things, good things, seem to take a longer time. But I would say it's underway. Yeah, thank you. Someone else had a question? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the class. Of course, the topic of creation is very intricate, very difficult to understand. In the beginning of your class, you touched slightly the point that the different parts of the bodies, they are actually controlled by some presiding deities of some demigods.
Yes.
Which means, to my knowledge, to my understanding, that we can't even move our hands without the sanctions of those demigods who are in control.
Absolutely, correct.
So my question is that if somehow or other we engage in some kind of sense gratification, using the body in some sense gratification, why do we have to suffer the consequences? Why not those demigods? It sounds silly, right? But just think about it. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Because it is, although the different demigods are enabling us to fulfill whatever desires we have. It's not that the demigods want us to engage in sense gratification. They facilitate. It's like Krishna ultimately, as Paramatma within the heart of all living entities, is directing, you know, is giving us knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. But it's not that Krishna wants us to engage in sinful activities. It's not that the demigods want us to engage in activities of sense gratification. But that's the system that is there, that they are controlling according to our, we are living out our karma, and we are creating new karma, of course, by acting. So we are the ones who are actually reaping the results, because we are the ones who are making the choice to act either in Krishna consciousness or to act in activities of sense gratification. one question here, or comment maybe, I don't know.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, what does Adhyatma, Adhidaiva, Adhibhutam means?
Yes, Adhyatmic, Adhibhotik, Adhyatmic means actually the jihvā, the living entity, Atma. Adhidaivic is what the question is being asked. The devatas, demigods. The demigods are helping Krishna in the material creation, and adhibhotik are other living entities. So all of us, we are Hare Krishna. It's been good? Okay, that's right. So all of us, we reap karmic reaction, and it is coming through these different agencies. Just like when we have a headache or a stomachache, then this is a karmic reaction that is coming to us. When we walk on the street and the dog comes to bite us, then that's another living entity acting out karmic reaction. Or when it is very nice, after a few days now we're getting some sun, so the demigods, they also control nature in different ways. So through these different, either through the body or through other bodies or through nature, through the demigods, we are all getting our fair share of good and bad reaction. Yeah. And what is wonderful actually when we take the Krishna consciousness, and I have 30 seconds, is that by nicely practicing Krishna consciousness, we can become situated above the influence. The influence will be there, but we will not be affected. So in other words, Bhakti, devotional service, which is the essence of the Bhagavatam, helps us to transcend two things. Transcend the modes of material nature, number one, and also transcend the different influences that are coming through nature. Yeah, which means threefold miseries of life. We will close here. If anyone has further questions, as we go out the hallway, possibly we can. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Sri Prabhupada ki, Hare Krishna.
Wonderful class. I hope we remember Krishna through his